Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Caru News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today, in the Thought Leadership series, our topic is Future of Indian Railways. Now, Thought Leadership series, crisis moments create opportunity. Problems and crises ignite our greatest creativity and thought leadership as it forces us to focus on things outside the norm. Thought leadership is fundamental in business today and consists primarily of finding and sharing great information in a way that attracts and retains. Thought leadership is when a leader's thoughts are being used by leaders to lead others. Thought leadership is influencing a narrative by understanding what needs to be done. A thought leader can be recognized as an authority in a specific field and whose expertise is sought and often rewarded. That can be an expert, a historical figure, or a wise person with worldly impact. In this series, we will be asking straight questions and we expect a straight answer from our thought leader. And today, our thought leader is Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik. Welcome, Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik on our show. Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik is the former Managing Director, Indian Railway Finance Corporation. He is a strong visionary, multidisciplined management professional with over 3 decades of rich and varied experience across government departments and public sector enterprises of India. He belongs to the 1989 batch of Indian Railways Account Services. Dr. Patnaik completed his master's in applied geology from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT ISM in 1985. He did master's in public management from 𝐂𝐀𝐑𝐔 School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore in 2005. He did doctor in philosophy, PhD in management from Birla Institute of Technology, Mesra, Ranchi in 2019. Apart from holding key positions in Indian Railways from 1989 to 2013, Dr. Patnaik has the distinctions of holding key management positions in the state and central public sector enterprises for nearly a decade, both on deputation and on absorption. After taking voluntary retirement from Indian Railways in 2013, Dr. Patnaik joined Heavy Engineering Corporation as Director Finance from 2013 to 2017, and then as Managing Director of Indian Railway Finance Corporation from 2017 to 2018. For his exemplary work in office automation and computerization, Dr. Patnaik was decorated with the prestigious Railway Minister's Award in 1999. In his last assignment as MD IRFC in 2017, Dr. Patnaik achieved a unique milestone by taking the lead to raise $500 million for the Indian Railways at a competitive price through issue of climate bonds, certified green bonds in the overseas market, which incidentally is first of its kind for the railway transportation sector in an emerging economy like India. Right now, he is pursuing his own ideas and passion for the institution building and academics. Welcome, Dr. Santosh Kumar Patnaik on our show. As you know, the format is different than the earlier format. The format is here. I will be putting questions, straight questions to you, and I expect a straight answer from you. So now my first question is, Dr. Patnaik, you have worked in railways and you have seen railways ins and outs. We would like to know your own experience about the past and the present form of the Indian Railways. Dr. Patnaik, please.
Good morning, Mr. Goel. It's an opportunity for me to meet you again and share my views on the Thought Leadership series on a very pertinent topic. What is going to be the future of Indian Railways? Well, you have started with a good note. giving some backdrop for the railways. And Indian Railways, for that matter, is the public face of the government and the single largest interface with the public in the nation. So today, if you see, this is the fourth largest organization in the world in terms of its network, behind USA, China, Russia, and then our turn comes. But yes, our network is supposed to be a very complex network, and the number of passengers that the Indian Railways moves, almost like 2.4 crores per day, is almost constitutes the total population of Australia and New Zealand. So that is the strength of Indian Railways. And beyond that, also the Indian Railways carry a freight traffic load of almost like 2 billion ton. So this is quite a mammoth task which Indian Railways have been carrying out for past almost like 169 years. If you look at the history of Indian Railways, the first passenger train was started moving from Borivaddur to Thane in the year 1853, 16th April 1853, to be very specific. And that was during the British era, and Lord Dalhousie was the viceroy in India. But very few people know that the railways have come prior to that in Indian Railways. It has taken birth some in the year 1832, when a small railway existed near to Madras, in the Madras presidency, by name Red Hill Railway, and that used to carry the laterite stone for some construction works. And subsequently, we have the railways which come, the local railways which came into picture was Godavari Dam Construction Railway in 1845, Madras Railway in 1845, Great Indian Peninsular Railways. So many things came, and finally, when the things took shape in the form of a passenger train moving, then the railway started moving with a great speed. The Britishers have their own interest for the expanding the network of Indian Railways. They wanted to expand the railway networks basically to take away all the the ores and minerals and to their own country, and then create the finished products and sell it all over the world. So that was the prime intention, to expand the railway network. But fortunately enough, the railways become the pillar stone for the Indian masses, and it really helped in the national integration, and basically due to the movements of people from one place to other with ease, the independent movement also gained the momentum out of the railway construction. So it was in fact a blessing in disguise, though Britishers constructed it for their own purposes, but railways came handy for the Indian masses. And after the independence in 1947, the railway started reorganizing. The government started reorganizing the railways. See, prior to 1947, railways were basically in the domain of in the private domain. Private companies used to manage the railways, and for that, the government they used to get a guarantee interest from the government of India for the investment they make for construction of the railways and managing the railways. The British government used to pay them a guarantee. But when India got the independence and the government of India started reorganizing the railways, it came under one umbrella, that becomes the Indian Railway. No doubt, various zones were created one after other. It started with the Southern Railway Zone in 1951, and subsequently we had Central Railway, Western Railway, Northern Railway, Eastern Railway, Northeastern Railway, Southeastern Railway, and then North Frontier Railway. As such, the railway was functioning with almost like 9 zones, till again the railway has gone for a reorganization in the year 2000. And 6 more zones were created out of the existing zones, and altogether almost like 15 zones are now operating in the Indian Railways. So, if we, from the historical perspective, if we see, and now if we see, there is one difference which is marked with the railways, that the railway, the way it was the progressing in the British era, unfortunately, the pace of development, the pace of investment could not take place subsequent to 1947 because of government's priorities in other areas. So prior to just around the independence, railway had a network of 54,693 kilometers in broad gauge, meter gauge, and narrow gauge put together. What we have done during this, after 1947 till now, is that we have added hardly some 10,000 kilometers of networks. And if you see in terms of growth, it is hardly say 24% of the growth. But one good thing which has happened is that the project Inugas, which started in 1980s, and it took almost like 10 to 15 years to convert all the meter gauges to broad gauges, that is added substantial connectivity and capacity to the railways. Beyond that, if you ask me today, in terms of the population growth, whether the railway has grown proportionately, I'll say emphatic no, because due to the other priorities for the government subsequent to the independence, the railway could not expand the way the road networks expanded. So as a result, what happened? The 80% freight traffic which the railway used to carry then, prior to independence, it has substantially reduced to 27% now. And even though it is working under the direct ear of the government, and with almost like 13 lakh employees all around the nation, but then in terms of commercial viability, it has put a question mark. And a lot of things is now government is trying to emphasize so that railway gets back its status as a national carrier, both for the passengers and freight, particularly for the long distance transportation. So to start with, we say the railways in the past, it was basically a British, sort of they give to the India, and subsequent to the independence, railways need to go in such a pace that we could not do that during the last 6 decades or so. But now with the national rail plan on the anvil, things are going in the right direction, and I feel the future of railways is quite bright from now onwards.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patnaik, for giving your perspective about the past and the present of the railways. And you have mentioned something about the future also. But before I will go to that, now my question comes to you. The railway suffered a loss of 38,017 crores in the passenger segment in the last fiscal due to the coronavirus crisis. But the CAG in a report revealed that the Indian Railways had scored its worst ever performance in a decade with an operating ratio of 98.44% in 2017-18. This basically means to earn rupees 100, railway spent rupees 98.44, leaving it with a profit of rupees 1.56 for every rupees 100 it earned. The CAG report further noted that were it not for the advance received from NTPC and IRCON, the Indian Railways would have ended the year in the red with a loss of rupees 5,676.29 crore instead of surplus of rupees 1,665.61 crore. Had that advance not come through, IR's operating ratio would have been 102.66% as per the report. Do you think, or do you agree that the railway is also doing whitewashing in their balance sheet by not showing the correct picture? Because advance money which you are receiving cannot be termed taken, and you are a man of finance. So my point is if this is the situation that we are running a loss, we are saying now that because of the coronavirus, but before coronavirus also, the physical condition of railway was not good. What you want to say about this?
Well, as I have told you, subsequent to the independence, the railways management come under the government fold. And government tried to manage the whole scenario out of the budget, railway budget. So railway budget used to be the main source of internal revenue for expansion of the railways. But subsequently, it so happened, due to the economic situation in the 80s, railways budget shrinked and shrinked. And that created all sort of problems for the railways in terms of their operational movements. It so happened that the railways could not match the revenue compared to the expenditure. Is because one of the reasons for that is that railway had a very large base of manpower. Second reason is that a lot of activities which happens in the railways is mainly out of the social obligation, whether it's the construction of the railway track or it's a movement of trains from one part of the country to the other part of the country. So the passenger traffic never faced the railways the type of revenue which is required. And more so, from the very beginning itself, from the independence days onwards, railway is having a very lopsided fare and fare structure. Means there's a lot of cross subsidy which is working in the interest against the interest of the railway. While passenger traffic is hugely subsidized, the freight traffic is means overpriced. So as a result, railways could not really move in as a commercially viable organizations from the very beginning itself. So what you said right now is the operating ratio, which basically talks about the efficiency, operational efficiency of the railways. A railway for last 1 decade or so is moving in the red zone of 95% to 100%. Means for 100 rupees they earn, they spend around 95 rupees. If it's the operating ratio is 95. And as you have rightly said, due to the corona, the 2021 balance sheet has really gone very early for the railways. You say there is a loss of about 35,000 odd crores. With the passenger traffic not coming because of the COVID restrictions or the not movement of train, railway harped very much on this freight traffic. The operating ratio as such, as I don't think you have given the right figure of the operating ratio for the last year. It is in the range of 120. That means railway.
Excuse me, Dr. Patna. I am not giving for the last year. I am saying of 2017-18 pre-COVID time. Yeah. It was also 102 point something, while it was shown 97-98, which was a window dressing of the balance sheet or the of the railway balance sheet. Because when you being a finance person, when you are receiving some money in advance, you cannot show it as your profit. It has to be kept in an advance only, while they have shown it as in a profit, and that's why they tried to show that there was a profit of 1,600 crores, while actually it was a loss of 5,000 some odds, even the pre-COVID time. I am not talking of the COVID time. Yes, please.
You are absolutely right in your own interpretation, but if you appreciate the railway accounting system is purely government accounting. It doesn't follow the commercial accounting, even though for some services it do maintain the balance sheet, but that balance sheet for the purpose of presenting before the parliament is irrelevant. So basically they go with the receipts and payments accounts, and if they are getting the receipts in this year, whether it is in the form of advance or in the form of some advance collection, it will form part of the receipts. So that way I don't think in terms of the government accounting, the railway has ever erred. But you are right, if you are going for a balance sheet approach, though advance payments to railways cannot be reflected as part of your earnings. So you are right. But as I told you, for last 1 decade or so, why 1 decade? Ever since I have joined the railways, I always find the finances are a big constraint for the railways. And in fact, you need to appreciate where from the railway resources come, where from railway get the investments. One is, of course, the budgetary support. Second is the internal accrual, in the sense every year whatever revenue that it collects, it offsets against the expenditure, and the balance which remains, it also forms a part of the railways own investable resources. And third, since 1980 onwards, 85 onwards, when the finances of the railway has really gone hurry due to the dwindling budgetary support, railway has gone for the borrowing, and that borrowing is happening every year since 1986. And today, if you look at the balance sheet of Indian Railways, the borrowing which it gets through the Indian Railway Finance Corporation, its borrowing arm is to the extent of nearly 2.5 lakh crore. So with such a huge borrowing, one can easily anticipate the financial condition of the railways if your revenues are not commensurate with your investment.
Okay. So according to you, railways were in loss, but you mentioned one thing. You said that, and it is the fact that Indian Railways is one of the largest or biggest employer in India. And next to is the defense. And it employs almost 1.4 million people. Now, so the Indian Railways is basically, it's a social economical, it plays a very, very important role in our job creation. So in the reports which are coming for the future is that the government is planning to privatize it. I will just read something. There is a proposal of National Rail Plan or NRP for India. It is a 30-year plan from 2021 to 2051, which envisages investment of rupees 38.5 lakhs crores. The plan is to create a future-ready railway systems by 2031. According to NRP, all freight trains will be privatized by 2031. Along with 30% of the 750 railway stations. All profit-making AC coaches will also be privatized. Only loss-making second-class passenger trains will be left with the railways. Interestingly, the private players just have to invest in running the train, not in the infrastructure or anything. The driver and guards will be from the railways, as will be the tracks. The railways will also maintain the stations, while the bookings will be done by the Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation, or IRCTC, a subsidiary of Indian Railways. This means the Indian Railways will run only loss-making passenger trains, while all profit-making trains will be operated by a private sector. As the profit is only from AC trains, won't the railway losses increase by this? Now, my question to you is, one side, the future, what we have seen during the last 7 years, how the privatization, or you can say the monetization of the assets that are taking place, where this present government is trying to rope in the private player by their saying that they are going to invest, but actually they are not investing money. They are just taking it on a percentage basis, like we have seen in that case of airports. Similarly, in the railways, their plan is that they will be operating the train on the percentage basis. They will share whatsoever the passengers load will be there. Now, when this is the situation, and all those trains which are loss-making will be run by the government, definitely two things is going to happen. One is the loss will increase in the future. Secondly, the number of job creations will definitely decrease, because the private player, as you know very well, they have no interest for the social conditions of the society. They are only interested for the profit. So they would like to operate with minimum staff, with the least salary whatsoever is possible, while the railways have their specific things they have to pay more and more. So what do you say about this, Dr. Patnaik?
Well, Mr. Goel, you have pointed out a very relevant issue, which is uh, in the point of discussion in the national forum, the privatization of railways, as you say right now, is this option that government is trying to work out in the similar lines at the the Air India, or say the other transport carriers. Indian Railways, as I have told you earlier, is one biggest factor for the national integration. So, and the second part is that the create a railway infrastructure, it cannot be passed on to the full domain of the private player. So the public expenditure needs to be incurred for the purpose of asset creation. But since the government has its own resource funds, they are finding out different ways and means how to make the railway viable. So one thing which I can tell you, during the last 6 decades or so, the different governments which have come into power is trying to balance between the social obligation and the commercial viability of the railway. And it was a big failure all throughout. Whoever has come as the railway minister in the past, they have a political agenda to run the railway. So basically, they will declare some new routes, new tracks, new routes, new trains, and which ultimately will add the financial liability to the railways. So over the years, it has never helped the railways in terms of financial sustainability. Second is that, okay, even for the running of the trains, as I told you, many passenger trains are running on losses. Railway has never worked in a commercial organization, even though it is playing the dual role of social obligation and commercial organization. The commercial part of it was never looked into properly. In fact, you see, we should not try to put the blame on the railway management for that matter, because railway management never got that leverage to do their own pricing of the services. They do the new introduction of new trains. So everything was going at the dictate of the government. Now government who have realized in the recent years that railway cannot run in this way, because the way the financial liability is going every year due to the borrowing of which is primarily utilized for the creation of rolling stock assets and now the project assets. So government is harping on the different options, and the national rail plan, as you have rightly said, it is futuristic in the sense by the year 2030 how the railway should look like, what should be the priority for the railways, whether it will be creation of new assets left and right, which used to be done in the past, whether it is to review the projects which are continuing since last so many years. Some of the projects, railway projects, are continuing with last so many years with little allocation of fund. So those projects are irrelevant in the context of railways development. So what the best thing which government is done is right now through the national rail plan is prioritize the project. Prioritization of the projects in terms of supercritical, critical, and support and other connectivity. These are the area. If these projects are coming through by say 2025, which is the target for the for the government to make all this infrastructure ready by 2025, and some of this infrastructure will also augment the capacity of the railways. That means the congested routes on the northern and the eastern and the western sectors, when you are going for the capacity augmentation and start introducing the high-speed trains like the Gatiman Express, like the Vande Mataram Express. So those are the things which government is now planning. At the same time, the sector which is not getting good enough of revenue for the railways, which is primarily the responsibility of the government to run it as a social obligation. So government is now trying to differentiate, draw a line between the one which should come under the purview of the social obligations, like you said, a lot of passenger trains which will not go to the private domain, and the other, the premier sector, like the fast trains or say the freight trains, right, which should move. They are planning to move the freight trains at a speed of 50 to 60 kilometers by strengthening the track and other thing. So those should come under a different domain where the private carriers will be able to run it more efficiently than the present railways. So basically what is going to happen in the future, in the near future, is by the time the 2025 will come, you will see a lot of investment will go in strengthening of the track, completion of the pending projects, the supercritical, under the category of supercritical and critical projects. There are almost like 60 odd projects, 68 odd projects which are in the critical, and there are 58 odd projects which are critical state. So a lot of projects are going to come through by 2025. And with this capacity augmentation, with the strengthening of track for moving of first trains, and then passing on some of the services, passenger services, to the private domain, and going for the station, world-class station developments, I think I am very optimistic. The railway is, I won't say it is going to be purely walk on a purely commercial way, but then they are going to differentiate the two different areas of social obligations, where government will go on giving this budgetary support for that purpose, and the other part of it, running of all these trains on the railway tracks, which will be owned by the railways, whether it is the private passenger trains or the freight train. This is going to work on a commercial balance sheet basis. So that is going to bring a great change in the functioning of the railways in the time to come.
Dr. Patnaik, you mentioned that the government will differentiate between the viable and unviable tracks or the trains. It means we are giving the profitable sectors to the on a platter to the private sector, and the government is keeping only the loss-making sectors. We all know that the country is a welfare state. It is not a dictatorial or a dictatorship place. It is for the welfare of the everyone, even those who are staying in a remote village. You mentioned that all the previous railway ministers, whosoever has joined, they have their political agenda. I agree, but we should understand, if a railway minister was from West Bengal, one was from Bihar, one from MP, they all try to take the railways to their constituencies or to their state. Ultimately, today, what we have seen, the railway has reached to almost everywhere, wherever the railway minister has to come. So we cannot blame them. Yes, it was not viable, we can say, but after all, railway is supposed to reach, we have to provide to the grassroots, to the end point, whosoever is there. Right now, we have seen how in the Jammu Kashmir, the railway has reached. So, although it was viable or not viable, that is not the question. The question is, we have to, after all, it's a government responsibility. Now, when we are talking about the welfare state, don't you think what railway is now going to do is they will give all the prime sectors to the private, and the private people will definitely increase the rates gradually, and that time will come when it will become unaffordable to those who are not having anything from the rural backgrounds. Today also we have seen that for just to save the money, they have finished the senior citizen concession, which is very unfortunate. One side, the government is having surplus funds to invest in a huge central vista, but they don't have funds for the central senior citizens. So the day you start cutting all the facilities to senior citizens or the children, and gradually other those who are from the rural background, the villages, what example we are going to set up. Plus, the job creation will be less, and once the job creation will be less for the biggest, the largest employer of the country, definitely more and more unemployment will be there. What you want to say for the future of the railways? What is going to happen to the society altogether? After all, as you initially mentioned, that the railway is working as a integration part of the country, and it is integrating the social fabric of the country. What is going to happen to that, Dr. Patnaik?
See, I have already told you, this independence, the government is managing the railways, and somewhere the things are not going okay for the railways. Railways come under severe criticism the way they are managing the finances. But I told you the railway management cannot be blamed. The blame is equally going to the government. And government is now very conscious that the railway platforms should be used for the economy as an engine of economic growth, which has not happened, unfortunately, during last 7 decades since independence. Because of that, the prime share of freight traffic, which used to come to the railways to the extent of 80% before independence, it has now come down to 27%. Second thing is that because of taking so much of social obligations, the railway has gone for a lot of cross subsidy, which is not really helping. If you are increasing the freight, the goods that the railways and transport is not being sought after by the business people. They are going away to roadways, and that's exactly what has happened. If you today see the railways freight share in the overall transportation, in the freight sector, it has come down drastically to 27%. So the government is quite conscious of that, and because of railway is not getting investable surplus through internal resource generation, that means the revenue should come more than the expenditure. Then only you can have the internal resource generation. So because you are not getting investable surplus, because there is a budgetary constraint on the part of the government, and because you are going for higher borrowing at a high interest rate, so all these things are constrained, making the government constrained to invest more and more on the railway infrastructure. So the government has to find a way how to make this organization really viable while also taking the social obligation to the extent possible. Now, since the market economy has already ingrained to the Indian economy very much, and a lot of people are now capable of paying more for the transport, right? Even though, as you say, that there are remote parts of the country, there are still people below the poverty line. The government can always think of giving them the subsidy, passing on the direct, to their accounts. But then this cross subsidy element, which is existing in the railways since the very beginning, it has to be totally removed, or else the viability of railway will always be questioned. It can never happen. So that's exactly government is trying to do. If you remember, when Nitish Kumar was the railway minister, he has taken a bold decision for the first time that the cross subsidy element should be phased out slowly. And that is when, for the first time, he said the freight rate should come down and the passenger rate should go up. And that is when you balance this fare and freight structure, you'll see the more and more freight traffic which are now diverted to the roadways. Even for the long distance haul, they will come back to the railways. And slowly, this marginal costing method will help the railways to gain more and more revenue and more earnings, investable surplus. And that is probably the government is now looking from that perspective. And if you say this asset monetization, they are going very,
for that, I will come in my another question for the asset monetization. Now, my question to you is, Dr. Patnaik, in India, the best officers, the best brains goes either to IAS, IPS, IFS, then the allied services, either customs, income tax, and the railways. Railways are having the best brains and the best officers from India. Do you mean to say that the officers who are being selected from by the UPSCs are fools? They don't know how to manage the railways. One. Secondly, earlier we were having the same structure for last 70 years, whether it was Congress, whether it was Atal Bihari Vajpayee government. In that, whatsoever we have seen from the scratch, because what my memory says that there used to be first class, second class, third class, and one more class used to be there earlier. And then gradually, the air conditioned started. Then the Rajdhani came, the fast trains came, deluxe trains came, gradually. So railway was always improving, and we were having no problems because the railway fares was quite economical. But now, what has happened now, where that immediately we are in losses, we want to sell all the assets, and we can't manage. Those officers who have been selected with a thorough scrutiny, those who are managing the entire railway board, to the zones and all the headquarters, if they don't have the brains to do it, how do you expect that a private organization will do it? Because private organization motto is only to earn money. Business is for the business, not for to give any charity. While the motto of the railway is to give the subsidy, charge more freight from the freight. Yes, you said it is to be reduced. Gradually, you increase the what Mr. Nitish Kumar has done. But when these private players will come, they will not increase gradually. They will immediately increase. We are seeing what we are seeing at the airport. You go to the airport, the way they are charging for each and every facility today. If you want to sit in the anything, any facility which you want to avail. Earlier, the porter used to be available for 10 rupees. Now the porter is available for 300 rupees. How you expect the same thing is going to happen in the railways? Time to come in the future, what will happen until, and you say that you transfer the direct transfer, we are transferring, the government is transferring 500 rupees a month. Do you think that 500 rupees a month is sufficient even to buy a ticket from Delhi to Bombay today?
Okay, let me ask you one question, Mr. Goel, on this point.
Oh, no, question I am supposed to ask you. You are supposed to reply me.
I'll ask the question and answer myself also.
Yes.
Like basically when you say that the railway fare was very economical, that's where your perception about the railway business is going wrong. I have been telling from very beginning, there's a lot of cross-subsidy element which doesn't make the railway as a commercially viable organization. So the first thing government has to do is that remove this cross-subsidy. At the same time, it should not try to inconvenience the poorer strata of the people who are not going for the rail travel. So that is where I say this differentiation is very much required. It has to come through. Now, suddenly, if railways, you are going for a pricing structure as per the market economy, suddenly you will find the railway passenger fare going up. That cannot happen in one particular year. It has to gradually go up. And that's exactly the government is trying to do. If you say, take the 1980s, there were not many AC travel coaches, were hardly one or two in each train. Now, if you see today in each of the train, there will be the 3-tier AC, there will be 2-tier AC, there is a first AC. More than 50% of the train, long distance trains are having the AC coaches. What does it mean? Now people can afford to travel in ACs. That means overall, if you look at this point, the economic condition of the people is improving. That you can make it out from the travel travel pattern. So that's exactly government is trying to do. The premier trains where the middle class and the higher class people, they prefer to travel long distance, go for the train. That they say, well, let's increase the fare in that segment. So that's not
Dr. Patnaik, just I want to stop here. Yes, you are right. But why you want to give to the private player? This thing can be done by the officers, the brains of the Indian Railways. You also worked as in Indian Railways. You know the economics well. Other officers, whether they're engineers or from signals or everyone is very capable to do these things. Why you want to hand over? Because if railway is going to do it, they will do gradually. They will see how much is the percentage one can afford. The middle class or lower middle class can afford. But a private player has no concern. They will say, no, if the air ticket is from Delhi to Bombay, say 6,000, let it be 4,000 and people will pay. This logic will not work. One has to see the paying capacity. So my only reservation is why to privatize this? I am not against that you increase the air conditioned thing. Why to privatize? My question is this to you.
You rightly said, Mr. Goel, that the best of brain come to the railways in terms of engineers, in terms of the administrative guy, no traffic service or the account service or the personal service. The best of people come over there. mind this, railway works with 13 departments and compartments. 13, more than 13, 15 departments and compartments. That is the big issue of railway since very beginning. The coordination part of it amongst the department, it never happened the way it should happen. It's mainly to do with the organizational structure, the way railway system has been functioning since the British era, and those things could not change despite the best efforts being done by the government. So you must have heard about the Rakesh Mohan committee report, where they have said that the railway should go in a big way for the reorganization. And if you see, during the tenure of Suresh Prabhu as the railway minister, he has done away with the railway budget. That's the best thing which to happen in the Indian railways. Railways.
Sorry, can you repeat what he has done away?
Done away with the railway budget, presenting a separate railway budget, which was morely, basically done as a sort of ritual, annual ritual. At the time of independence, railways investment was quite huge. Railways to give a lot of funding to the government. So there was every reason to have a separate budget. But over the years, since 50s, 60s, 70s, the railways budget share has come down. It has come down to such an extent that it doesn't even constitute the 5 to 6% of the total Indian budget. So there was every reason to do away with the budget. And second thing, good thing which has happened is that they are now thinking of a reorganization of the management structure. There were different services coming from different streams to manage the railway. Now the government has gone for, basing on the committee recommendation, they have gone for an Indian Railway Management Service. Now the UPSC has stopped taking people for the railway services as a whole. The new management structure is being created for the railways. At the same time, what you are talking about, the fare and fee structure, the private players, even if the services go to the private players, the private players cannot do it at their whims and fancies. There will be a regulator which is coming into picture. So those all things are going to come one by one. And that is why the government is planning to make a commercial face of the railway and the social obligation of the fairway, whereas while owning all the assets, they will pass away the different services at a premium to these private players, so that they give you some money in terms of asset monetization, and the same money can be utilized for further asset creation.
Dr. Patnaik, what you said, theoretically it is right, practically it is wrong. Today, the airport's name has been changed. How come a airport name can be changed? Tomorrow, Bombay Central name will be changed to Adani Central Station. Would you like, as a citizen of country? The High Court has to interfere for Mangaluru Airport, which the name has been changed to Adani Airport. Then again, it has been restored for Mangaluru Airport. So my point is, private party, definitely, if they are investing 1 rupee, if they are not getting 1 plus, they are not going to invest money. They are not fools. Secondly, if you are going to give, but my only thing, one more thing which I would like to just highlight right now to you is, now the contradicting thing, what we are talking about, the privatization. Putting an end to the earlier speculation and media reports surrounding Indian Railways amidst the ongoing disinvestment drive, Union Railway Minister, the present Ashwini Vaishnaw, recently said that the iconic national transporter will not be privatized. He further added that such move would not happen in the future also. Now, my question to you is, do you have faith in his statement, or it is again like a jumla?
Well,
because see, you also mentioned about, and I mentioned to you about the plan for so many years, where they have mentioned that by 2031 so much privatization will take place, so much privatization will take by so much year. But now the railway minister is coming. No, we are not privatizing. So because the elections are there, so they have to keep the constituencies happy. Why this type of double standard from the government? Either you say you want to privatize, let the people who doesn't want, let them protest. But one side, you see, like what happened to the Kisan movement. So you have come out with the laws, then you have to eat the pie, and you have to take back all the laws. And now again, the agriculture minister 2 days before, he said, no, we are bringing up And when the backlash came, yesterday he said, no, we are not bringing the. So this type of things are giving wrong signals, and the morals of the employees of the Indian Railways, which are having a very, very high esteemed place in the society, their devotion, no parallel. I worked in railways as a contractor, and I have seen the work, the dedication, I will not say the 100% honesty, but whatsoever honesty they have, no one can match. Even I can say many times the railway is even above than the defense services as far as the honesty and the working culture is concerned. And now if our railway minister is giving this type of statement after that particular paper which has published by the government only that this is a planning, why this type of double thing? Now which we are going to agree, whether we think that the privatization will take place or the what railway minister is saying is right? What do you say about this?
Be sure about this aspect of privatization is not going to happen, because when we joined railway, the same slogan was there. Less railway will go for the privatization because of this financial doldrums. But that's not going to happen. No, the government cannot afford to do it. The full-scale privatization is not going to happen. But what is happening, as you rightly say, it is a sector-wise privatization. See, they are going to privatize the services. They are going to privatize, for example, when I was there with the Indian Railway Finance Corporation, the railway minister said, let's go for the asset monetization of the OHs. Now, there is a plan of the railways where they want to go for 100% electrification by the year 2022-24. Almost 70% track has already been electrified. Another 30% track is going in a very, on a fast track, and it's going to happen. Once that happens, railway have a different face altogether. It will be the green transportation. That's a good thing which is going to happen. Now, the problem is that with the full-scale privatization, which was tried in the British railways, was never successful, right? So again, they have gone back to the old mode in a different way altogether. Indian government is quite aware of that. And that too, with such a huge network of, say 69,000 kilometers of track and 13 lakhs of people, privatization is not going to happen as such as it has happened for the Air India. So what will happen is going to happen is that the government will own the railway infrastructure. There will be some part of the services which are proving to be detrimental in the commercial viability of the organization is going to be offloaded. There are some services like you have seen, the catering, the ticketing, all those things has gone to the domain of IRCTC, a public sector corporation. But again, in the public sector corporation, not much of gain is coming through as the government has envisaged in the beginning. Railway has created almost like 13 to 15 public sector organizations. And half of them are not functioning the way the government had anticipated. So the corporatization has its own limitation. Having the full government control over the railway, you have seen the type of financial instability which has come to the railways. So government has to trade a mid path. This is exactly government is trying to do. One is that they are going for the reorganization of the railways. They are going to augment the capacity of the railway. You might have seen the dedicated freight corridor is a project which is coming up for last 10 to 15 years. It is going to happen in the next 3-4 years when the freight trains will start moving on a timetable, right? Once the freight trains start moving on a timetable, you will find a lot of this, business houses which have come to the roads, they will come back to the railways again. This is going to happen in the eastern and western sector, whatever the whole country. So government has excellent plan how to develop the network all over the country, whether it is for the passenger traffic or for the dedicated freight traffic. But for all these things, what you need is the money. And railway in this current status, they cannot generate money. It will be a myth if railway is going to generate money out of internal resources in this present form. So it is going to happen only when there will be a reorganization of the railway structure. There will be new ideas coming through. But yes, privatization per se is not going to be the answer to unwind this myth. It's going to happen for few services, and that's what government is trying to do. You might have seen the government has gone for a tender of 151 trains. premier trains, but hardly it got any response from the private players. Same thing has gone for the station development, where the government is trying to go for the PPP mode of, through PPP mode to get resources and get this world-class stations. Those are also not happening the way the government is possible. So unless until the private players, they see that there is going to be sufficient return for them in the projects where they invest, they are not going to do it in the in a year. So the mid path, which is going to be explored by all the stakeholders, be it government, be it the private players, be it the regulators, there has to something which will come into picture, and you and me should agree that railway should work on a commercial principles in the years to come. While the social parts have to be taken care of by the government, railway is such in terms of providing service, whether it is passenger service or whether it is the goods service, they should give the best of service. Then only the railway will get it back to its back glory, which used to be there during the British era.
See, Dr. Patnaik, what you said, I agree. My only disagreement is monetization of the assets. See, in UK, what they have done is they are giving the trains on the lease. You run the train, it is your train. You give us this much money, like airlines here. The private airlines are operating, they have to pay the money to the airports. Same thing can be done as far as the trains are concerned. You give, but government should, railway should not stop their own trains. Let it be extra train. If there is a more load from Mumbai to Delhi, let it be 2 more trains or 4 more trains or 6 more trains by the private operator, but the existing train should not be given to them. That is one thing. And let them bring their own train. Like in UK, we have seen in this Virgin fellows that Bernard, he has put his own trains there. And whosoever wants to go in that is fine. Otherwise, generally public are going in the normal trains. But now, again, I'm saying something, I'm reading to you. The Railway Ministry has announced plans to invest about 53 trillions or about 50 lakhs crores, equivalent to rupees 53 trillions or $700 billion in 2020 to upgrade the railways by 2030. Now, I don't think that it has been possible because of the coronavirus. The excuse is there. Upgrades include 100% electrification of railways, upgrading existing lines and more facilities, higher speeds, expansion of new lines, upgrading railway station, introducing and eventually developing a large high-speed train network, interconnecting major cities in different parts of India, and development of various dedicated freight corridors to cut down cargo costs within the country. Do you think it is feasible in the present scenario of economic crisis? One side, we want to show we are doing these things, and other side, we are saying we don't have money, we are increasing the prices of taxation, we are increasing the prices, how to take money from the public, whether in the form, in any form. And today, you know what is the condition of the inflation. It has crossed 14%, the wholesale index, which is bound to happen, is hampering everyone's budget, home budget. Now, when this is the situation, why not do something else instead of giving these types of false hopes to the public? And one point which you have mentioned, that they come out with so many trains and the stations, private players has not come. It is written on the wall that there are only 2 private players in India. They will come. They just want to create the situation that the government has to reduce the charges, the tax. Earlier, they were planning for 6%. Now they are reducing to 3%. And one of those 2 are going to take it. We have seen in the airport also. We have seen at port also. And we are seeing even now the roads constructions, the Ganges expressway, who has taken it. It is going to happen in the railways also. So that is, but because the government has to make such a condition, suitable condition for 1 or 2 big houses that they only will take, in such a way that they will run in profit, and ultimately the loss will come to the government, like in air India, disinvestment. Government got only 3,000 some crores. A total liability which Mr. Tata has taken is about 18,000. Out of 18,000, 3,400 crores paid to the government. 14,000 is a bank liability. After 50,000, government has taken those liabilities. It was 64 something total liability, and those 14,000 they will pay in moratorium, because Mr. Tata, once he will be there, the bank will give 10 or 20 years moratorium. So the government got only 3,000 something crore, while the expert says that one route of Mumbai to London, Mumbai to New York, Mumbai to many countries, or Delhi to all those places are very, very expensive. To get those routes is very expensive. Similar thing, do you think it is going to happen same way in Indian Railways if we will not check right now? What you say?
Well, your apprehensions are quite correct. Even my apprehensions are in the same way. The things are now going for the privatization. Now, how this privatization is going to make the future of India, only time will say. Now, coming to the railways, as I have told you earlier, is the largest public interface of the government of India. If it's government of India is going to go for the large-scale privatization, left and right, then it may impact the social obligation part to a larger extent. And the government may come into criticism for that. That's one of the reasons why government is going very slow about the selective privatization, sector-wise privatization of the railways. They will never go for the full-scale privatization, and that's the reason why the railway minister tells with authority, railway will never be privatized. But yes, the selective privatization has also its pluses and minuses, and one has to be very careful when you are taking out all the services, the passenger services, and giving it to the hands of a few players, right, who can really come and participate in the bidding process. Now, this thing, I had 1 year of stay in Singapore when I was doing a master's in public management. That is the time when I tried to study the metro structure of Singapore. And then around the same time, the Delhi metro was coming up, right? And both the metros were doing quite well. Singapore came first, Delhi picked up later. But one good thing which I could say, I had a 2 month of internship with the Singapore Metro, where that's when I got associated with the Land Transport Authority of Singapore. Then I wanted to know what exactly is keeping the Singapore moving, not at the cost of public, at the cost of it is for the cost in the government's benefit. Everything is happening. I found this metro tracks, they are also going in the same. They were choosing the operators to run the tracks. Government was not doing the same thing. Or Singapore, the government has only created the track, and then they were creating a competition that was called the managed competition among selected 3 to 4 operators. That again, it was created by the government. All those corporations, all those private PA, the government of Singapore had a stake. So government of Singapore had always a say about the paraphernalia which the operators need to maintain, going with the regulators' norms and way. So that is one facet of the managed competition. Even though it is called a privatization, but it was a managed competition where government has the absolute control over everything. Some sort of model that should come here now, as you rightly expressed your apprehension. The way the things are happening in the airport sector, in the airline sector, the port sector. One really do not know what way it is going to, whether it is going to create more jobs or it's going to really go for the proper economic development of the country. But this model like the managed competition in the railways, in the Indian railways, will be a good solution for the applications which majority of us are now telling. So I think, but one thing is that with the present organization structure, a railway, if it's trying to run the trains with the congested routes, you have seen the railway has hardly created 10,000 kilometers of tracks since independence. Prior to independence, it was 59,000, and just we have added another, say, 10,000, 69,000. But if you are not going to strengthen our existing network of 69,000, and then we add other tracks for strategic consideration. See, China is in the last 15 years, China, I'll give you a figure, you will be amazed to know, every year they are investing $100 billion to increase the rail infrastructure, and they are going for production of railway assets, and they are exporting to the other countries. The high-speed trains, you cannot think of the number of high-speed trains that are coming through. So all this thing has happened in 15 years. 15 years back, they were in the same state like the Indian Railways. So Indian railways need to also go in the same form or other. Otherwise, it will also create some problem from the strategic aspect. Now, if you are not going to link the border states, bordering, say, China or the Pakistan, of course, we have the China. If it's not going to happen, then it's going to be a big threat for the integrity of the country. Now, during the British time, they created 5 hill railways. That time the technology was not there, that sound. We have technology, we have manpower, we have resources. We are struggling for last 10 years to create one particular line to connect from Jammu to Srinagar, right? If this is the pace of development, railway development, then God only can save this country. If something wrong happens on the border and we are not able to take our, the resources to the border line, then it will be a real big threat for the country. So railway needs to invest. We cannot deny the fact that railway need to invest for the new track. Railway need to invest in the states. Sikkim is one state where we don't have any railway track.
Yes.
Of 21st century like this. So we need to go for investment, and government is finding out different ways how they should get money, because if you are going for borrowing left and right, it is only there, it is putting you in the debt crisis. So
okay,
now financing should be there to take railway out of this problem.
See, now you have raised 2 points. What about the China, and other was the financing? As per an economic survey by economist Arvind Subramanian, if you invest ₹1 in the railway, it generates ₹5 in the economy. The Chinese government invests 11 times more in its infrastructure than India. You rightly said. Yes. And today, 3 Chinese public sector companies are among the top 5 in the Fortune 500 ranking. Now, so it means the government has to invest more as far as if they want to run in a big way. How to raise the funds? You have, as per your profile, at your time, you have raised $500 billion million US dollar. Don't you think today in railways come out with some types of either in form of IPO and raise the funds from the public at large, from the institutions, from the foreign companies, keeping disinvesting, say 24% of their equity today? Why I'm saying, I'm giving you the logic, because you mentioned about the land. Now I am coming to the, for the benefit of our viewers, I would like to say, and then I want your views, because you are a man of finance and you work with railways. Railway is the biggest landlord in India. Second is defense. It is 30% bigger than the state of Goa. Why we are not using it? I will give the figures. Total land it owns is 4,780 square kilometer. Yeah, I'm talking of square kilometer, not hectares or acres. And 510 square kilometers total vacant land is owned by railways. 821 hectares land are under encroachment. This is the not my figure, Indian Railways data till March 2019. This is the source. Now my thing is, as a man of finance, why not keep this thing in mind? Ask your officers, brilliant officers, you have best civil engineers with you, to utilize that land, because that land are nowadays in the prime locations of the country. In all the cities I have worked with, so I have seen how the prime location lands are available with the railways. Monetize them, not in the form of selling them. Construct whatsoever commercial complex you want to construct. Give them on lease to the public at large. Charge them lease rents, but don't sell it. Don't give the entire land to a private party so that he will construct the mall. Similarly, at the airport, railway station, construct all the facilities. Give it. You have everything. Railway itself, I was told when I started my career at the age of less than 18 years, I was one of the youngest contractor to be approved by the railways when I became 18, was that the railway itself is a full wholesome country. Every facility, every department is working in railways. Now, my point to you is, you can raise the funds. You have so many sources to raise the funds. Why go and privatize and give to one person? Let the public will also get the benefit of the shares which they will hold of Indian Railways, not to a one X or Y corporate house only. This is my only reservation of the privatization. And in this way, government will have funds. Government can do the social obligation also, and it will earn money also, and it can invest in the infrastructure, which will in return will give the benefits of the giving the profit ratio increase. What do you say about this, Dr. Patnaik?
I think you have uttered the right statistics for the railways. The railway, the defense, has got the highest land holding. Thanks to the vision of the Britishers, who at that time thought of expanding the railway network in the century.
Dr. Patnaik, I'm just stopping you. You are the very few who has said something about the vision of Britishers. Otherwise, whosoever comes on my program, they always criticize them, and they say don't follow them. But I always say, follow the good things, whosoever it. And you are the first person. You are saying that their vision, they were the visionaries who have done so many good things for the country also. One should not discount that. Yes, Dr. Patnaik.
Particularly the way they have conceived about the extra railway on the both sides of the tracks, that is something unimaginable. Even some of the tracks, you say it has been encroached. Still, we have got that track, and for which we are going for doubling, we are going for tripling of track, and then we are going for the dedicated freight corridor. All these things would happen because Britishers have thought of this thing is going to happen for the country, whether they are ruling or somebody else is ruling. So, but the railway infrastructure will get developed. But unfortunately, what has happened over the years since independence, we have not managed our railway land properly, either for the creation of new railway tracks, or for that matter, utilizing it for the commercial purpose on their own, or by they're leasing it out to the others. But slowly, when things are changing, and particularly when the market economy has already been part of India's economy, now we are thinking of different ways how to monetize these assets. So railway, about 20 years back or so, more than 20 years, I think about 25 years back, they created an organization called, as a corporation called Railway Land Development Authority, right? They were supposed to take full-scale charge of the extra land which is there in the railway's possession. But unfortunately, as I told you, most of the corporation, the way the government has envisaged to work, they could not work in the same way. I don't want to comment on the expertise part of it. Maybe due to the inherent problem in the organization structure, the way that the management takes place, because all these corporations come under the purview of Indian Railway. They are directly under the control of the Ministry of Railway. Things have not materialized then. Now, as you rightly say, in the city like Mumbai, in Delhi, in Kolkata, in Chennai, everywhere railway have got land in the prime locality, and there are encroachments happening. So at one point, the railway is struggling hard to get those encroachments out. At the same time, they are also not succeeding to monetize these assets. As you said, that ownership will remain. Asset monetization per se is good for the railways. You are going to monetize an asset where the ownership lies with you, and you are leasing it out to a private player where he will create revenue and he will share part of the revenue with us. This is a very good model, which, if it is mandatory.
My only reservation is, why one party, Dr. Patnaik? Why not many stakeholders? If you have a land in Bombay, let the government will construct the and today Central Vista, who is constructing? The government. Through the private players, they are constructing. They are being treated as a contractor, but they have not given them to run that. And we will Parliament, we will pay you, or the Prime Minister House will pay you, or we will get the money. No, government land should be used as a government land, there should be construction of a multi-story building, commercial building, whatsoever, offices or residential. Then you give on the lease. Don't sell it. Let the government give the lease, and let the government will be the owner. What do you say about this?
I'll tell you, no, when I was in IRFC, one such proposal was mooted by the Ministry of Railway, where the Indian Railway Construction Organization, 𝐂𝐀𝐑𝐔, was asked to develop the properties in the railway land. So 𝐂𝐂𝐃 and RLDA, they formed a consortium. Now government said, okay, you are going to do this thing, I am monetizing this asset, and you are going to give us the money. So wherefrom 𝐂𝐃𝐃 and RLDA will get money. So it has to be taken again on the form of a loan. So the IRFC started giving money to 𝐂𝐃𝐃 and NDA to monetize in the form. So the government money is going from one hand to the other. That's perfectly fine. Now 𝐂𝐃 should come out with the structure, as you said, and they should lease it out, whether it's a market complex or it is, say, some entertainment complex. I do not really know how these processes are going as on date. Right? This is, I'm talking of the period in the year of 2018. 2018 to 2021, with 2 years of COVID, and so I don't know what is the fate of those projects. So those things are very much there. Now government is trying to create a synergy between the various corporations. They should work in such a way that it gives benefits, so that the money remains with the government purview. No private players can enter to take the the lion's share out of it. That's a good idea. But I'll tell you, Mr. Goel, unfortunately, the corporations which have been formed with 100% government equity, even in some of the corporation has been disinvested to the extent of 20-30%, they are not performing the way it should. Whether you are going to put the blame on the organization structure and the way it is being managed under the supervision of Ministry of Railways, there is no answer, the particular answer for it. So that is when government is looking at this private players.
But Dr. Patnaik, why we are creating another East India company in country? See, if you are giving to 10 stakeholders, 1 or 2 might be a spoiled egg, not everyone. But if you are giving all your basket of one egg only, that if he or whosoever the corporate, I am not naming, if they want to apply something, or think of a hypothetical situation, or tomorrow the government changes, they may stop this particular thing, and then the litigations will start. Now, this land which are still with the government will be in the dispute, and we have seen SpiceJet. Tell you, SpiceJet. Sorry.
I'll give you one instance which will give you a lot of clarity on what you say. I 100% agree with you. In the same government, this present government is running for last 7 to 8 years. True, right? They are taking the policy on the on the railway matters also. So they took a policy in the best of judgment. They will go for all these station developments should happen in the PPP mode, and there should be one particular corporation created for that. It was Indian Railway Station Development Corporation, right? They created that authority. And then they started the operation. They have gone for the tendering of the whole thing. And they got some, it was not a 100% successful endeavor on the part of the corporation. But then, yes, they got some offer in the PPP mode. Suddenly, when this new minister has come, somehow they found the pace of development which should happen, the way they have envisaged that all these world-class stations would come up first in the tier 1 cities, then in the tier 2 cities, not happening the way it should be. So they say, okay, let us disband this corporation. Now, in today's date, that corporation is disbanded. They are trying to find out other mode, how they will make it happen in a fast forward. So, see, government is also experimenting with various models.
Now, one last thing, which is very disturbing, I think so, but you have to clarify. Railway allowed private corporate running freight business to take lease line without any payment, thus losing more than 700 crores per annum. Other only condition government says that others can use this and property remains with railway under Gati Shakti Multi-Modal Cargo Terminal, that is GCT, which they have started from 15th of December. I will just, for the benefit of my viewers, I will just explain that it is like this, that if someone who is in the business of freight, like say Blue Dart, if they have to send something, so that railway line will go up to their yard, and that rail, they will not charge anything for that. And the Blue Dart can send their parcels, or Amazon can sell their parcels directly, but it will be, the property will remain with the government. And but the government says that the same rail track can be used for others. My only reservation in this is, tomorrow what they will do is that they will create one hub in a next to the railway track somewhere, which is a very cheaper place. They will make a warehouse there. They will put there all the things, and they will ask them to give the track up to that place free of charge, without any cost, and they will be sending their things. Government will not get anything, and government cannot lease out to any other person. So basically, it will be a net loss for the government, which right now they are earning 700, 800 crore. What are your views as a financial wizard, Dr. Patnaik?
Well, till date, railway as a mode of transport has not been integrated with the other modes of transport. That you realize. Otherwise, there should not be unhealthy competition between the road and railways. Now, government is trying to make an effort to go for a multimodal transportation. And that is where they say the railway sidings should be used in an effective way to generate more of revenue. This is one of the effort, right? I must say the initiative government has taken, but the appearances which you are telling, I don't deny those appearances. Though anything can happen, because as we have experienced our private players, the big players, they always try to take a pound of flesh. Even though if they are given a 1 pound of flesh, they will try to go for the 2 pound of flesh. So this is exactly what happens when policy things are being designed. Government has to be very, very careful. The intention is not bad, but it has to be misutilized by the party stakeholder which is given that. So
yes,
okay. The regulatory regime needs to be properly framed out by the government, and multimodal integration is the key area. Now, all the businesses are happening on the supply chain mode. Lot of e-commerce businesses are coming now, including the Amazon, right? So all these e-commerce business, if they are not taking the railways as part of their logistics, then railway is going to ultimately lose. And road, we will know in the congested roads, it is going to be a time-taking affair. Railway is a faster mode of transport.
Okay. Yeah, we got it. Now, last one more question, which is a very, very interesting question for the public at large. That is about bullet train. Now, bullet train construction was expected to begin by April 2020, and the project was expected to be completed by December 2023. Due to delays in acquiring land in Maharashtra, which is because of the change of the government, that is what my apprehension is always there. The completion date has been pushed to October 2028. The stretch of 50 kilometers from Surat to Bilimora is expected to be completed by 2026. It is estimated that the total cost of rupees 110,000 crores that will be spent on 508 kilometer long high-speed rail corridor project, rupees 88,000 crores will be given to India's loan. These loans will be available at 0.1% interest, and India can repay them in 50 years with a moratorium on repayments up to 15 years. Now, my question to you is, one side you are saying that we are not capable to run our existing business. Tomorrow you will have this bullet train with a government liability. After all, government has given the guarantees, so government has to make the payment. Tomorrow, what is going to happen? Will they also hand over this bullet train to some corporate house? Because if you cannot run your existing thing, and now the problems which we can see, forget about Maharashtra, even in Gujarat, only 26 at the stretch of 50 kilometers, which was supposed to be completed in 1 year's time. Now they are saying expected 26. So this excuse is not maintainable that only the Maharashtra government is creating handrails. Even in Gujarat, they have the problem. So when you have such type of projects you are bringing without thinking that tomorrow you are going to hand over to a private player, why you have taken the loan? If you wanted, you should have asked a private player to start a bullet train from the stretch. Let him take the possession, let him purchase the land, let him construct the thing, like what we are doing for other things. But not, the government should not invest the money, and government should have not given the guarantee. Only 1 minute, 30 seconds for this answer, because I have to ask the future from you.
Okay. Now, this Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed railway, service. It is being developed under the aegis of the National High Speed Railway Corporation. There is another project which is going on in the National Capital Region. I think you are aware of that. Rapid Railway Transit System, RRTS, right? Is going to connect your Delhi Meerut route, is going to connect your Delhi Alwar and Delhi Sonipat, or Sonipat and Panipat. Both the projects has started at around the same time. One is happening at the center, going in partnership with the 3 states, RRTS, right? Delhi government, the Rajasthan, and then Haryana. All those governments are becoming part of this project. One is the National High Speed Railway Corporation, where the Japan government is giving the loan of $15 billion, 1.1 lakh crore. But the time overrun becomes a cost overrun, that you understand. Now, one project which I'll say is going before time. In Delhi capital region, you have the same problem, getting the land. But as I said, the management structure, the leadership makes the difference. Incidentally, in both the organizations, I have my own friends, my batchmates who are running the show over there, right? RRTS, recently I have gone to Delhi. I was amazed to see the way the RRTS is working. The Delhi Meerut route is going to be functional by the trial run will be there in 2022, and by 2022 December, the Delhi Meerut route will be open before time. The same thing is not happening for Mumbai-Ahmedabad route because of this land litigation, which is unfortunately the state.
But that is one has to foresee. After all, you cannot be on the helm always. That your government will not be always there. It can be changed, and you have taken a very big guarantee. Like this present government always blame the previous government about the oil bonds. Tomorrow, the next government will blame them about this loan of bullet train, which is going to be of no use, because bullet train will again be given to on a platter to some private party. Thank you very much, Dr. Patnaik. I think you have given all the answers very thoroughly. This shows you are really a thought leader. You know your subject very well, and I'm sure all our viewers are quite enlightened. Sorry, I could not talk much because now the program timing is, I've been reminded by the studios. So today, viewer, you have seen how our thought leader, Dr. Patnaik, has given their views. All the questions, state questions and state answers, difficult questions, sometimes irritating questions, but he was very cool and he has given all the answers, and I'm sure it is quite enlightening. So thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarocar News, Bharat Post News, Caru News, as well as shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And in our endeavor to bring to you every day a new topic of media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Tomorrow our topic is education for total consciousness. And our panelists are Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, one-man expert commission on Labour Government of India, Dr. Kiran Vyas, Deputy Speaker, Global Energy Parliament, founder, Tapovan Open University, France, Dr. Christophe Dumas, Director, Global Energy Parliament Research Center, France, and Dr. Bindu R.L., Professor and former head of the Department of Education, University of India. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, Dr. Patnaik, for joining and giving so straight answers. Although the time is limited, otherwise you have given all the answers in details, and I'm sure all our viewers are also